Hey, it's Bo here,
Does it, Bo Rigby?
and I just want to let all my fans know around the world that I am a fan of making fun of MacGyver.
Ain't nobody loves me better.
Tonight, MacGyver's friend hiding from the mob in a witness protection program has his daughter and grandson kidnapped, and MacGyver gets caught in the crossfire. Witness protection program, eh? Maybe that's how I can get out of being the show announcer for making fun of MacGyver. It's Making Fun of MacGyver, a rib-tickling takedown of our favorite 80s adventure show, Falcon Crest. No, come on. It's MacGyver, starring Sam Jordan as the skeptic and Jeffrey Hess as the scientist.
Name's MacGyver.
Welcome, everybody, to Making Fun of MacGyver, the show where we recap, review, and lovingly ridicule every episode of the original series. I'm Sam Jordan, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by my fellow MacGyverite, the real estate agent who can get you into the landlocked houseboat of your dreams, Jeffrey Hess.
I can also find you places where guys get buried 6 feet under, and now it's for a deep discount.
Oh, in more ways than one, deep.
This is actually my idea for like a semi-serious sitcom, which is it would be Dexter meets like some kind of real estate show where the lead is a real estate agent who only sells murder houses, but the catch is he does the murdering.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I like it. And then once that gets produced, 35 years after that, we'll get a podcast about it.
And some guy in his 30s is going to call me up when I'm 80. You want to come talk about this show? You know I do.
My over-the-top appealing pal, I offer you this query. Here it comes. Are you in the mood to see more chasing inside a baseball stadium than the record-chasing Aaron Judge has done this summer?
That is not the context I understand chasing. But yes, definitely.
Oh, good, because we're moments away from Making Fun of MacGyver. It's our 64th episode. And tonight we're talking about MacGyver Season 1, Episode 3, Back from the Dead. But first, it's our opening gambit. Yeah, how sweet it is. How you doing? You feeling good?
I feel great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I know you had parents visiting you. We got fall coming around. We got the two-man game going on here. Lots happening. Holiday season.
My wife's going back to work, like physically work. She's been working the whole time, but from home. She's going back to work after 2.5 years. We've been in this 1,300 square foot house together with a now 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. So I'm somehow still married. Which means something's right or something's very, very wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you guys have a pretty good relationship, I gotta say. I mean, there's not much fussing and fighting. A little, but
not in public.
yeah. Not that you usually bring up during a podcast that we put out to tens of people. Right.
You're gonna believe my bitch of a wife.
Jeff, people are still talking about Lost Love Part 2. I mean, it's mostly us, but people are still talking about Lost Love Part 2, our last episode, and just how good of an episode of MacGyver that was. So we gave it an 8. And, Mike no longer with us, but I have to say, if Mike was, don't you think he would have given it like an 8 or at least?
Yeah, I was going to say the top third, yeah.
Right. So that was an average 8 for us, and that tied for the second highest rating we've ever given an episode so far. So number 1 is The Assassin, the end, the season 1 finale. Number 2 is Partners from last year, which introduces Murdoch and shows the back history with Pete. And then we had Bo Rigby join us on. So that one we also averaged out to an 8.
Yeah, Murdoch is an unstoppable force. Really drives that plus 2 or 3 points.
So yeah. One thing, though, I neglected to mention in that last episode was at least 1 and possibly 2 cases of borderline music theft. So we talk a lot on MacGyver about borrowed footage, stolen footage, and it was a practice. We're not just blaming MacGyver, but it was done a lot on MacGyver when you need stunts and crazy dramatic landscapes and geography that they're not going to travel to in California. But MacGyver, the original series, used a lot of extra footage from other places. Trumbo's World taking it from a movie that was 25 years earlier with ants. But we got borrowed music, in my opinion, in Lost Love Part 2. So here we go. I've got the audio breakdown here for you. So early on in the episode, Jack and Mac are in a truck. They're getting to the site where they're going to steal the Jade Dragon, right? And okay, there was a piece of music that was clearly, undeniably mimicking a popular song from that time. So what you're going to hear first is the clip of MacGyver, and then the song is Word Up by Cameo. Does that song ring a bell to you?
Come on, baby, tell me what's the word up? Word up. Everybody say that's the code word. When you hear the song, you've got to get it underway.
I don't know if this is a bonus or just a penalty for listeners now going to hear you sing 2 songs on this episode. At least
romance, 2. No romance, no romance for me.
So, okay, so here we go. First, I'm going to play that cut. So you're going to hear MacGyver. Listen to the background music. Clearly, it is influenced by Word Up, and then just a little bit of Word Up to let you hear that.
Not to worry. The dragon is safe. Who could break in there now? Hang on a minute, I'll get it.
So, that's,
blatant.
Blatant. I mean, that's fine, but they changed just 1 or 2 notes, and that's what I feel like they do again later on in the episode when MacGyver and Lisa are kissing, and it sounded like a song, a Diana Ross slow song from the 70s called Touch Me in the Morning. Now, this one, I don't think everyone's going to agree with me on, and no one's going to really know this song, but this slow ballad by Diana Ross, Touch Me in the Morning, and I feel like the notes played as they kiss are the same notes, except they leave off 1 note. Just like with the Word Up, they left off like 1 note to not make it the same. Touch me in the morning. So I ding, 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 ding. Anyway, here we go. Here's MacGyver kissing Lisa in that episode.
I wish I could believe that.
Touch me in the morning.
Not perfect, but dee 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 dee. Touch me in the more. Right.
The light motif is there.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting and fun to just see how in a pinch you gotta grab some audio here, grab some video here, right? When you're doing a TV show like that in the crunch.
Yeah. Noodle around on a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Diana Ross is popular. Bum bum ba ba ba.
Mm-hmm. What do you say we check some viewer mail?
Where's the rest of it?
Refreshingly
What happened to
compact.
the mail theme?
Hey, guys, the Making Fun of MacGyver hotline is ringing. And the number is 904-419-3310. 904-419-3310. You call that number, you leave a message, no one will pick up. Ideally, it's around a 60-second message or less, preferably, and we'll play it back on the show, no matter what you say, pretty much. And we got a message from our favorite feminist who had an issue with lost love and Mac's inability to keep a girlfriend around.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Making Fun of MacGyver. It's Claire Fisher of the Dead Fictional Girlfriends Report, here with some thoughts about Lisa. Among Mac's dead girlfriends, Lisa is the longest-lived one, since she makes it to the end of Season 3, Episode 2 before, spoiler alert, tragically dying. My problem with Lisa's character is that she suffers from what I call magic penis syndrome. MPS is when a female bad guy switches sides for no other reason than being seduced by the hero. The most infamous example might be Pussy Galore and Goldfinger, who becomes James Bond's ally after he beats her up and they take a roll in the hay. See, in Lisa's case, she's an experienced KGB operative who's committed enough to be underground in a resistance movement, seduce MacGyver as part of an operation in the backstory, and then insert herself into his present-day life, manipulate him, blackmail him, let him be targeted with live fire, and more, but still claims, and I quote, there were real feelings too. Her decision to help him escape from her boss after all of that is what gets her killed. And there's no way a Soviet spy like her wouldn't have seen that coming. Now, I know your listeners all agree Mac would be a good lover, but could his magic penis really be worth dying for? Food for thought. Enjoy the show.
So my take here is that I don't think she had ever converted. I think she was a liar all the way through, and that the attempt to get back on that helicopter with Mac was just to stay in his pocket.
Oh, wow.
So the Russians are probably enough with her half in, half out, and 80s Russians blatantly evil people. But I never thought her conversion back to Mac was sincere. So
even running and jumping onto the copter, you still think it's some 4D chess double spy action where she's going to still be trying to take Mac down, or the U.S.
She's done it twice already.
Yeah.
She tricked him and delivered him to the Russian boss. That's why they're there.
But you know who didn't believe you is Kosov and them, because they put a bullet in her. So they didn't think, they thought she might, right? And she kicked them, I guess one kick, right? And one punch or whatever is enough, right? So she died for that. So I don't know. I don't know. But what do you think about Claire's magic penis syndrome theory? That's interesting.
I've never heard that one before, but I'm going to be on the lookout for it now because she's astute at picking up these genre tropes and things like this. And I mean, there's got to be more. I'm sure she has a whole binder full of examples of this happening, because it sounds like it's something that happens.
She has binders full of women.
Yes. Who have magic penis addiction or whatever. Because it feels very common, because if you have a male protagonist, sometimes the plot requires that they end with the female in the end. And so sometimes they'll just be, they just wind up together, even if it doesn't make sense.
And, if we were watching this show with, say, a 50 or 55 or 60-year-old woman, they wouldn't, odds are she wouldn't be coming up with half of the observations that Claire does. Now, Claire obviously has a firm point of view, but still, what is she? What millennial?
She's a
millennial,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, as am I.
Right. So you see this show through a different lens, and it's hard for you to believe some of this was typical tropes on TV back then. But it is funny to hear that. But yeah, thank you, Claire, for the call.
And the new lingo.
And the new magic penis syndrome. Yeah. I don't believe any woman has ever thrown that at us. That term at us.
No, definitely not at me. Yeah.
This was just about how it was disappearing. At the wrong
there's
time,
a real missed opportunity for Magic Mike jokes, too, because we don't have Mike anymore.
True. All right. Let me take you back now to Monday, October 5th, 1987. The number one movie in the country for the third week in a row is the thriller Fatal Attraction, which I've told Jeff he needs to see before it leaves the number one spot. Jeff, don't worry, you got plenty of time. You got plenty of time to watch this movie. The number one song in the U.S. for the second straight week is Didn't We Almost Have It All? And last week I sung it. I dedicated it to Mike. I did an okay job according to your review. It was my first time doing it. But now you're up, and we're going to challenge each other all season long. And it's time for you to sing Whitney Houston. How do you feel?
I'm ready. I love me some Whitney. I'm ready to. There's some really. It's short, so we don't have to go very far. But she's got the notes are coming in hard, early. Remember when we held on in the rain, the night we almost lost it. Once again, we can take tonight into tomorrow, living on feelings, touching you all again. Didn't we almost have it all? When love was all we had worth giving, the ride was worth the fall, my friend. Loving you makes life worth living. Didn't we almost have it all? The night we held on to the morning. You know you'll never love that way again. Didn't we almost have it all?
to go. All right. Good
Damn.
job.
It's getting like, even in a recording, I feel like I'm getting completely run over by her.
I can't help but laugh when I think of your wife in the other room hearing roughly every 2 weeks, she hears you belting out some song from the mid 80s, like earnest, like really trying to. What do you guys talk about this?
Oh
when
yeah,
you go back.
It's the only part she'll mention. Because I'll come out and she'll be like, "Oh, so you were singing blah blah blah." Like, yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was one of the Bon Jovi ones, but we took a break and I came out and she was applauding.
Oh gosh, I bet you that has kept the marriage alive a little bit in these past 2 years. That brings some much needed levity.
Well, here's a bit of marriage advice: like, you got to have separate hobbies. You want to have shared hobbies and separate hobbies, and this is my separate hobby. You need something where you can get away from your partner and enjoy it yourself. And she doesn't listen, so I mean, I don't care if she does or if she doesn't, but
I doubt any of her hobbies are as embarrassing as you trying to sing Whitney Houston, you know? I mean,
no, she's a fucking artist. She gets the easy path. She like draws and paints and stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got the number one movie, you got the number one song, and now it's Monday. It's October 5th, 1987. It's 35 years ago, pretty much, from when we're recording this, which is great. And at 8 o'clock that night on ABC, it's MacGyver Season 3, Episode 3, Back from the Dead. What does that title mean? Is it scary? I mean, is it October spooky season yet? I'm not sure. We'll find out now as I hand over the reins of the show to the gnarliest of MacGyver narrators, the gentleman, Jeffrey Hess.
Well, we begin Season 3, Episode 3, Back from the Dead at Mac's new and I believe permanent through the end of the series home on a houseboat in Vancouver.
Growing up 1,500 miles away from the ocean, you hardly ever get a really good sea breeze. So for a Minnesota boy like me, living on the water was kind of perfect. And as it happened, my next door neighbor was a fringe benefit.
MacGyver, still on for dinner tonight?
I'll be there.
That's what you said last time.
No last-minute excuses this time, I promise.
MacGyver!
Then again... good morning, Pete.
Morning. I think we've got a problem. Look at this.
That's Jimmy Kendall.
The one and only. I mean, we break our backs to get him in the witness protection program. We even had a funeral for the man. And here he is with his picture in the paper.
This had to have been an accident.
Accident or not, there he is in all his glory. If Papa Chuck Banning and his syndicate buddies see this, after all the information Jimmy gave the government, they're going to make sure he's dead this time.
We got to get to him.
Well, I've already tried. He's on a bus with his baseball team. They're due to arrive at Shoreline Stadium this morning.
I can be there in about an hour.
Yeah, well, all right, but be careful. Remember, if he's in the target zone, so are you.
So, a bit of a lengthy clip right there, but I left the whole thing in because it really sets the scene. This is the plot for the entire episode. For new viewers and listeners, people who don't recall, if you smoke a lot of weed or drink a lot, in Season 2... Yes, Season 2 or Season 3? One.
Season 2, yep.
In Season 2, Jimmy, whatever his name is...
Jimmy Kendall,
Jimmy the Eraser, is subject of a whole other episode where him and Mac have like these big emotional interactions and everything, and they save him from these mobsters, and he's supposed to be underground. And they send him to a AAA baseball team, we thought, in Florida. Well, now here he turns up in the newspaper in Canada because his team is doing well. He's winning baseball games with this Florida AAA team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was Season 2, Episode 2, The Eraser, and we gave it a 6, an average of 6. But I gotta stop and do a little monologue on this because it's rare. Well, it's not rare. Sometimes within the first 30 seconds or 60 seconds of an episode, you've got a whole vibe that gets set and it works throughout the show. And that's what happens here because, okay, you've got the debut of the houseboat, as you mentioned. I don't think it makes the whole series run, but at least for the next 4 or 5 seasons, it's the houseboat. Oh, wait, 4 or 5. No, at least for several seasons, it's the houseboat. I've got a theory for you. Are they starting to make Mac a little asexual? Because you see a gorgeous girl on a nearby boat, and Mac's like, oh, sorry, I missed our date once again. Are they starting to turn Mac a little bit towards, like, I'm not a ladies' man, I'm so committed to my work, do you think?
I don't think it's that. I think leaving him available makes him more appealing as a sellable leading man because then members of the audience can see themselves as getting with him. He's not taken. For his career that he's in, much like Spider-Man, having a girlfriend would make her a target as we just learned from, several previous episodes. And I think I never really thought the sleep around Bond style Mac was the way.
No.
It doesn't match with the rest of the character. That's an easy cut. Like, you can have him still date girls. Penny Parker, I'm sure, is going to be back. But it makes a lot of sense to me to kind of tone that part of it. They tone down the violence. They tone down, unfortunately, the shirtlessness. And then they've toned down the girlfriends.
But they're filming in Vancouver now, and it's beautiful. It's a nice sunny day. But, oh, my gosh, coming out of a houseboat and seeing this gorgeous girl on a boat 30 yards away say, MacGyver, when do you get, what a life is that? I fantasized for a moment there. But the other thing is, as soon as they mention Jimmy Kendall and show a picture and mention Papa Chuck, I love it, because I think we're in agreement that we love when they build up the lore, when they get into the lore and they reference past episodes and everything's not a one-off, forget it, like this never happened, and immediately they're going back to a character from the season before, and I'm so on board. I'm happy to see that.
And by the way, it's not Papa Chuck, it's Papa Chuck. Papa Chuck.
Papa Chuck.
However you said it. So Mac immediately takes off and heads to the stadium where he's going to meet Jimmy, and a bus pulls right into the middle of the stadium. Now, audience, I'm expecting Sam's going to get this episode 11 because Sam is a huge baseball fanatic. Do the buses pull into the stadium? Is there not a parking lot?
You know what? This is a dome, and I'm actually going to reference my Jaguars experience as relevant here because I feel like, especially I remember at the Superdome in New Orleans, I remember a bus pulling right in there. So I think football stadiums, especially domes, oftentimes, have the ability for a bus to pull right in. So I felt like I've experienced that. But I was wondering what stadium this was because I don't think there's any stadium that big in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I was thinking maybe Seattle. I think that might have been the Kingdome where the Mariners played. That looks like, it's a dome. It looks really huge. That's my guess that they filmed that perhaps in Seattle. And maybe the All-Star game was in Seattle that year, and maybe that's why they have a certain special baseball royalty guest coming up in a few minutes there. But it takes more than just a baseball topic for me to give an episode of 10. Yeah.
I thought maybe that got your bat hard. Who knows? So everyone starts piling off the bus, and here's Jimmy Kendall, and he's just absolutely pumping up the team. Everybody loves him. He's got exact right words of advice. The team is winning. I mean, they're traveling cross-country AAA. He's pumping up the pitcher. The pitcher's the greatest thing ever. The pitcher's like, my hometown's only got 400 people in it, and the stadium seats 60,000. Jimmy's like, don't even worry about it. It's a hot dog stand, nothing like that. And then he gives wise words. I'm going to go with, not wise words, I'm going to go with wise guy words to this baseball player about his efforts.
Wow. Sure wasn't anything like this where I grew up.
Back in New York, where I come from, this is just an overgrown hot dog stand.
Lou, they say it seats 60,000. My whole hometown, there's only 482 people.
Dave, you getting the jitters? Fans, I don't know, they're like elevator music. After the first pitch, you don't even notice them.
I sure hope so.
You've been mowing them down since high school, and it's the same game. I mean, you got a rifle. Pitch the way I know that you can, and we murdered them.
You just gotta, put them in the dirt, push them down the stairs, hit them in the knees with a baseball bat.
Well, you remember, if you go back and listen to our episode, and that was episode 29, when we did the eraser, you'll remember at the end of the episode, Jimmy gave us a call. He gave us a call from, I believe it was Port St. Lucie.
Very threatening.
I couldn't tell if it was threatening or not, but he used a lot of terms that sounded like hitman mafia terms, but they could also apply to baseball. So here he is again doing it right here, and
And this actually does kind of annoy me throughout the whole episode. As a refresher, Jimmy the Eraser is a hitman, like a notorious evil hitman.
Right.
That's why he's called the Eraser.
He was, right.
The baseball player calls him Lou because he's living under an assumed identity, thanks to MacGyver saving the hitman's life.
Right.
Leaving from the stadium, we cut back down to the docks where there's some obviously Italian thug-looking fellas with white roses on their lapels. And what comes to be the main bad guy boss named Ralph approaches an older mob boss type guy, and he is explaining that Papa Chuck has died. So Papa Chuck was an antagonist from the first one. He's kaput probably in real life. And so Ralph gets promoted. And while Ralph is in the process of getting promoted, his sidekick, his bumbling buffoon sidekick Sal, notices exactly what Pete noticed. He sees Jimmy in the newspaper.
Are you nuts? The family finally gives me the nod, and you come interrupting with your nonsense.
We got big trouble. Jimmy the Eraser, he ain't dead.
Oh, you see what I mean? Now, that is nonsense. I did that hit myself.
Today's paper says you didn't.
It can't be. It's got to be an old picture.
Calls himself Lou Rizzo. He's with the AAA team in the playoffs at Shoreline Stadium.
I can't believe this.
If the family finds out we're dead, what are you going to do about it?
This time I'm going to put him in the ground myself.
So, what I like about this episode is this plot, no frills. Very clear what's going on here. Jimmy's back, shouldn't be. Ralph wants him dead. That's really all you need to know.
No, and then anytime you get the mafia involved and someone having to go undercover, it builds in suspense and intrigue, and I think you got a winning formula here. Let's talk a little bit about the cast, because it's a good cast, too. So Joe Santos is Jimmy the Eraser Kendall, and he does a really good job, so believable in this role, and he was in 7 episodes of The Sopranos.
Makes sense.
Joe Santos, yeah. Now, that comes much late. That comes about, 12 years after this? But, and then also, so Paul, who you see here on the dock, looks incredibly familiar, right? Al Ruscio plays Paul Weber, and that face looks so familiar to me, a stalwart on 80s and 90s, anytime you need a mafia-looking guy. But he was in The Godfather 3, and he was in Showgirls.
He was one of the girls, was he?
And Richard Jameson plays Ralph, and that's not a face we really recognize, but he was in the earlier episode with the Eraser.
Looks a bit like Paul Mann's James Gandolfini. A poor man's James Gandolfini.
Yeah. Doesn't look like the typical mafia guy. It's a little bit of a stretch. Maybe because he doesn't look Italian or something. I don't know. But
so what's up with the face slapping? I noticed this when Jimmy pats the world's oldest looking 20-year-old on the face, and then the Paul does it to Ralph. They pat him on the face. Is this a thing? This is an Italian thing?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an Italian thing, especially in the mafia, where they like to give you a little friendly violence to say,
a little reminder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, count me out of that. I'd kick you in the balls if you do that to me. So back at Shoreline Stadium, Mac is watching the players play, and Jimmy's dispensing some advice, and out walks one of the greatest baseball players to have ever stepped foot on the diamond, hammering Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron.
Yep. And now, were you surprised to see him walk out?
I was. And he's wearing a jersey that just says National on it. And that's why I feel like they must have gotten him in town or something. Maybe the All-Star game was in Seattle or something, and he was just wearing, I don't know what National is, but that might have been what he was wearing for an old-timers game or something. And I was wondering, because then they show him taking swings and hitting the ball, I'm wondering how old he was here. So what is your guess as to how old Hank Aaron is here when this is being filmed?
So my knowledge of Hank Aaron extends to he was or is still the all-time home run king, and that he was ancient when he got the record, that he compiled his stats over an exceedingly long period of time.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with 51.
Oof, good guess. He's 53 being filmed here.
Yeah.
And still taking some pretty good cuts. I don't know if that's him hitting the ball into the bleachers, but it's definitely him on the swings and misses, and he looks pretty spry for 53.
Yeah. I mean, is he still the hit king, the home run king?
That's a good question.
Or has one of these steroid guys overtaken him? No steroids at Hank Aaron, I can tell you that.
Unfortunately, Barry Bonds ended up with 762, Hank Aaron 755, Babe Ruth 714, Albert Pujols 702.
So without getting too far off of the side here, you did mention Aaron Judge, who has beat the AL record, beat the Yankees record.
He's tied it, as of this recording, he's tied it at 61, but yeah.
Are you a steroid record guys out of the book, or we just have to, everyone was on it, nothing we can do with it?
Hard for me to tell. I don't know. I can go either way on that sometimes. What do you think?
I mean, out.
Don't count it?
No. I was huge into all those guys. It's kind of what broke me of baseball. Is because it all turned out to be a lie, and I feel so deceived, and I can't credit any of them. So as far as I'm concerned, the Maris record 61 is the single season, and
and I'm sure all the guys
are still juicing, whatever. Anyway, so the young nervous pitcher manages to pull his shit together with the help of some sage advice from Jimmy and strikes out. He erases Hammer and Hank. Yeah. And Hank then takes the team off the field because he's there to dispense some advice. And that's when Mac takes his opportunity to go over to Jimmy and say, Jimmy, your cover is blown. So he takes him up to the upper deck and shows him the newspaper and says, what are you thinking, Jimmy? And Jimmy's like, I told him not to put me in that picture, and he's so upset, and everything's going great here, Mac. I can hide. No one will recognize my very recognizable face. And Mac's like, would Jimmy the Eraser fall for that? And Jimmy's like, no. And so right as Mac is about to convince him to go into hiding, the goons show up, and the chase is on. So Ralph and Sal, the goons, are chasing Mac and Jimmy through the stadium, somehow like bloodhounds, because they're able to just follow them into random doors.
Right. And Mac Mac's like, follow me in here. And he directs him into a bathroom for some reason where there is no real plan.
But they escape. How they escape, we don't know. It's just that the mobsters go into the bathroom. Sal or Ralph, I can't remember which, shoots through the door. There's closed stall doors. They think they're in there. But it just cuts to Jimmy and Mac running away. So I don't know how they managed to get out of there.
I was like, what's Mac going to do with toilet paper here? How is he going to get out of this with a hand dryer?
So they don't get very far because they're still running across the upper deck, and Mac is looking for a quick way out. And he sees one of those wires that holds up the net behind home plate. And he goes over to a fire hydrant, like the fire hose, cuts the fire hose out of there, flings it over the wire, tells Jimmy, hold on, let's get going. And they slide down that wire on the fire hose, action movie style, while Jimmy and Sal take pop shots. Not Jimmy and Sal, Ralph and Sal take pop shots, missing like Stormtrooper aim goons that they are.
I enjoyed this. It caught me by surprise. The stunt work was not recognizable. It looked good. And it's funny you say Stormtrooper aim, because that exact scene is so original Star Wars to me, where Luke says to Leia, get on my shoulders, whatever, grabs Leia and he swings across. And that's exactly what MacGyver does to Jimmy. Not quite as romantic there, but then again, Luke was Leia's sister and a brother. We didn't know that at the time. But
did you notice the hidden camera in the cross shot?
No.
So there's a camera that's pointed down the wire, and there's a camera that's pointed up the wire. And so when they cut to them coming down from the up angle, you can see the other camera in the background.
Okay.
But do you think you could do this?
Oof, I'm afraid of heights. That would be rough for me.
I mean, not could you do it, but can you physically do it?
Does it MacGyver?
So before we get too far, there are several different types of fire hose. This one is called an attack hose, which is usually fabric covered, and it'll be mixed with some kind of, it'll be cotton mixed with some kind of other fabric, typically nylon or polyester. And what we're looking for is the material's abrasion resistance. That's how much it resists flat rubbing contact against another material. So when you throw the hose over the wire and you run it down, is this hose going to get cut by the wire before they go down? Well, there are two tests called the Wiesenbeek test and the Martindale test that you can do to find out how abrasion resistant a textile is. Textile be like your shirt, anything that's woven together is
fabric,
a textile.
Right.
So I found a website called Oriental Bag, which sells, among other things, nylon and polyester backpacks.
Oh, nice.
And they did several tests on nylon and polyester. Polyester has moderate abrasion resistance, surviving 25,000 cycles of this test. Nylon is like the tip top, also surviving 25,000 with even less damage. For reference, 30,000 cycles is some of the toughest materials on Earth. Your typical couch is going to be something like 3,000 to 9,000 cycles, or if it's really tough, 15,000 cycles. So both nylon and polyester, incredibly abrasion resistant. These fire hoses, tremendously strong because they have to withstand huge amounts of pressure and be reliable. And it definitely would have survived going down at least once down this wire. This does MacGyver.
Good job. 1 for 1. He's on a roll because he was perfect last episode, so he's really rolling now with these things being feasible.
Yeah, and he really does pick the perfect item for this because what makes something hard or strong is the tightness of the bonds between the atoms that are inside the molecules. And so something like your hands, very, very loosely bound. So if you try to go down this on your hands, it's going to cut your fingers off almost immediately. But the abrasion resistance that is brought on by the polyester and the nylon makes this the perfect escape as long as your enemies have Stormtrooper aim.
Yeah.
So they get away from Ralph, and that's the end of Axminster 1.
Yeah, it's a really good start to this episode.
We begin Axminster 2 back at Mac's houseboat down on the docks where Jimmy is surprised to see that Mac lives on a boat. Is that surprise? Is that something that people find weird?
It did seem like an odd choice to mention that, but I don't know.
And
of course we don't, we talked about the houseboat, but we get no mention of why Mac has gone from L.A. And also they don't say where he is. Do you think the producers want us to think that he's still in California? Or where? I mean,
it feels very implied that they're still in
mentions
California.
Minnesota, and that was interesting in that beginning. Like when you're a farm boy from Minnesota, so that's part of the lore that I like. Hey, I'm from Minnesota, but I missed the water, so now I'm on the water, but I'm not going to tell you where it is or why I'm on a houseboat or whatever, but so be it. But of course, it was just to save money for the production of the show.
And save the show.
Right.
So there's an important scene that's going to happen in this houseboat, but it's interrupted when we cut to this random woman and this little boy. And the little boy walks in the house and tells his mom that he thought he was going to get to play in the game, but I guess he's bad at baseball. And since the game was close, he didn't get to play. And so the mom's like, why is your uniform dirty? And he pretends slid into second base after because he didn't want to come home in a clean uniform. And God, does this strike close to home. But anyway, up on their doorstep shows Ralph. And he says, I got a message from your father. So Ralph is here to get a little leverage on Jimmy. Back at the houseboat, Jimmy is getting a talking to from Pete and Mac, who are telling him, Jimmy, you cannot stay with this baseball team. It is absolutely essential that you leave. They know you're alive, and there's nothing that is going to stop them this time.
Just stay out of the limelight. They're never going to find you in Montana.
Montana? What the hell's in Montana? Buffalo chips and blizzards. Why not Miami?
You like it warm, you get snow. You like the beach, you climb a mountain. You like baseball, you take up golf. Jimmy, I'm sorry, but I'm serious. This has got to be a totally different life for you.
It's almost not worth it.
Well, the alternative is not worth much either, is it? Think about it. Come on, Jimmy, it's not going to be that bad. We're going to get you everything you need.
What I need, you can't get me. Mind if I use the phone?
What for?
The game's tomorrow, and Dave, our starting pitcher, will be a basket case if I'm not there for him.
So would you give up baseball if in the face of imminent death?
Yeah.
That was pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm sorry there was no hemming and hawing there.
My goodness.
Can we talk a little bit? We're long overdue to talk a little bit about something called ADR, Automated Dialogue Replacement. And you're shaking your head, you know what it is. And I'd heard the term ADR, but I didn't know what it stood for exactly. But let's talk about it. It's a process of re-recording the dialogue in a studio to change or improve the quality of the dialogue that was recorded on the set. It's usually done after the filming process to replace the previously recorded poor quality audio with a better quality recording. Now, this has happened many, many times on MacGyver through its first 2 seasons. And we've mentioned it, but we've never called it out by its name, ADR, Automated Dialogue Replacement. But it is my theory that nearly every word that this child says, that this boy says in that living room is ADR. It was not said, was not picked up by a mic right then and there. Now, you got to be watching with a magnifying glass like we do. And for some reason, I notice more of these little nitpicky things, but I swear I do not think that kid was actually saying those words there. I think it was somebody else or him at a later time.
Well, it would track because he's bad at baseball, so it makes sense he would be bad at acting.
Okay, so we got ADR. So now in future episodes when we reference ADR, and I think it's going to happen a lot, we'll know what it is.
Okay, so Jimmy actually does follow through and does just call the pitcher, who has a message for him from Ralph, and it's a phone number. And so Jimmy calls the phone number, and it's at one of Papa Chuck's old cannery operations, an abandoned cannery operation. And Ralph explains to Jimmy, I got your daughter and your grandson, which is news to Jimmy, who didn't even know he had a grandson.
Right. Can you be a deadbeat grandfather? Is that a thing?
No, I think you're pretty much out of the picture, deadbeat dad.
Okay.
That's you've burned the bridge and kind of pissed on it after that. But I mean, also he's a fucking hitman.
No, but what if you're a good dad, but then a deadbeat grandfather? You know what I mean? Like you do your job as a dad, but then you're like never around as a grandfather. Like you leave the kid at the park. You know, you don't get him anything for Christmas.
The stress of the hitmaning kind of like builds up over time. And so, you know, in your later years, you can't handle it. So Jimmy now has the address of where his daughter and his new, previously unknown grandson are. And this really drives him because Jimmy is a former mafioso himself, and he's not going to take this laying down.
I got one more thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I know it's breaking the flow.
Don't be sorry.
This is big, but it's the kind of thing only yours truly would notice. Okay, now bear with me. Pete leaves, and Jimmy says he's got to make a call. Okay? MacGyver says, I'm going to go take a shower. Does that ring a bell? MacGyver says, I'm going to go take a shower, and Jimmy makes it. So MacGyver goes up the spiral staircase, says he's going to shower. I looked at the timestamp when he says he's going to go take a shower. It's 19:08, 19 minutes and 8 seconds of the episode. So Jimmy makes a couple of calls here. You're going to tell me he does a couple of things. But MacGyver comes back down the steps at 21:20 in a new set of clothes, having showered. MacGyver took a 2-minute and 12-second shower and got dressed and had time to yell something out from downstairs to Jimmy.
And he probably had sex with Lisa, too, in that time. He's really Superman in it.
So I just wanted to point out that MacGyver is capable of 2-minute showers, according to this episode.
Not just 2-minute shower, 2-minute shower and change.
And he got dressed. Yeah, he's coming down. He's fixing hair, but yeah.
It takes me more than 2 minutes just to put my socks on.
I mean, you got to get the water going for 2 minutes to get it, and step in there.
Yeah,
so
and do that thing where you put your hand under and it's too cold. You got to pull it back out. And then the next time you do it, it's too hot.
He could have just, I got to go change. But no, they said shower. I'm going to go shower. And he comes back within 2 minutes, fully showered and dressed.
So he does call Dave and then calls Ralph. And Ralph tells him the truth. And then he makes the fakest call ever to a priest, someone he claims is a priest. And they are obviously speaking in code. And Jimmy convinces MacGyver that he's got to go do a little praying before they go. And that's the end of Axminster 2.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. This is a good episode so far. But let's take a break now. It is the perfect time to take a break for a time capsule commercial.
Busch Gardens presents the one-day fun-filled family tour of Europe. This year, you and your family can experience the thrill and pageantry of Italy, Germany, England, and France, all in one unforgettable day. Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. It's all the fun of Europe, only closer.
Have you ever been to Busch Gardens, Jeff? Whether that one or... No?
I have not. Nope.
Okay.
Do you recognize the music?
Yes. I don't know the name of it, but do you recognize the voiceover? You school me to the music. I'll school you over to the voiceover.
So the music is Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's Nutcracker? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's from the Nutcracker Suite. My sister grew up to be a professional ballerina, so I've seen that damn thing dozens of times.
Okay. Well, I didn't have a sister, but I do know that voice is the only Vincent Price of 50s, 60s, 70s horror movie fame and thriller.
I didn't recognize him when he wasn't putting on the affectation.
Yeah, that's Vincent Price. Busch Gardens, Tampa, I've been there. It's a great amusement park. Haven't been to the one in Virginia. But you were cracking a couple of jokes about, you were saying it's like some really American stuff there to experience Europe in one day at Busch Gardens in Virginia.
Sprinting through, ready for Axminster 3.
Let's do it.
So we begin at the church for Axminster 3, where Jimmy goes to meet with the father at the confessional, and big surprise, the priest is fake, and he gives Jimmy a gun. So
take me to church, Mac says. Or does Jimmy say it? One of them says it.
Yes, because they're moving like a dog in the something of the night or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, such a good song.
It is a great song.
Yeah.
Not gonna attempt to sing it. Wrong decade. So Mac watches as Jimmy leaves the confessional. Jimmy, being a good Catholic boy, remembers to genuflect and then goes to pray.
Mac hold on. Mac doesn't make the sign of the cross.
Mac's not Catholic.
How do you know he's not Catholic?
Because he would have made the sign of the cross.
Right. Okay. So I was wondering that if this is the tip-off that Mac's not Christian, but you're right. All it means is that Mac is not Catholic.
Yeah, he's almost certainly Protestant of some sort. He's from Wisconsin, or he's from Minnesota. He's probably Lutheran. Right.
Okay. I was just
wondering. It's a very Lutheran affectation, kind of like low-key, hard to ruffle sort of thing.
Well, you know this stuff better than I do, but this was like MacGyver's first chance to tip his hand on where he's at on the religion scale, and so we know he's not Catholic. We can cross Catholic off the checkbox, right? Okay.
Yes.
But Jimmy is.
And much of the same way, like him not having a girlfriend, he's not going to be a religious character. So Mac watches the priest come out, and the priest forgets to genuflect, because any good Catholic will tell you anytime you cross that cross, you got to kneel in front of the Lord. So Mac realizes immediately this is set up, goes up to Jimmy and says, "Hey, Jimmy, what's the deal?" And Jimmy tells him.
I didn't even know I had a grandson till somebody took him away.
That's what all those phone calls were about?
They want me, and they want me alone. Otherwise, the family's dead.
Jimmy, why didn't you tell me?
What for? You just call the cops.
That's not a bad idea.
No. It boils down to me and them. Nobody else knows about this, and nobody else is going to know about it.
Jimmy, they're just gonna kill you.
I know. But if Susan and the kid can get out safely, I really don't care what happens.
All right, look. No police, I promise. But you gotta tell me where they are. I'll go with you.
No. I warn my family.
What, a friend can't help?
Boy, you're really thick-headed, you know that.
You know something, you're right. Let's go get your family.
Jimmy appears to agree, and then he kind of backs off and says, "Mac, I really don't want you to come. I wouldn't want you getting hurt." And Mac looks a little confused, and then Jimmy beats up Mac and takes off running.
Whammo. And this is the second time he's done that. Every time he hangs out with Mac, at some point he punches him or beats him up.
Well, and it's going to get worse for Mac. So this is the lightest abuse he's about to take.
True.
So Mac gives chase but loses track of Jimmy, and then he remembers, "I saw Jimmy throw a piece of paper ostentatiously into the trash." Mac goes back to the boathouse, pulls that piece of paper out, looks at the number, calls the phone company, does a reverse number search. What is a reverse number search? Is this something that can you just call the phone company and find out an address for someplace, Sam?
Does it MacGyver?
Believe it or not, for our younger listeners, before the age of cell phone, landlines were literal pieces of metal that went to your house, that they were routed back to the phone company. And the phone company would release entire books with the name and address of everyone in your town in it that you could just look up and see where somebody lived. Mm-hmm. So you could absolutely do this. Call the company. He calls the company. Here's the number. And the company says, "Oh, yeah, it's that address over there." This does MacGyver.
Okay. Mac,
is that something?
Staying perfect.
Do you think that they would release phone books today? Like if landline phones were new, would the company put the phone book out?
I feel like it was just a short time ago, like a couple of years ago, that I stopped getting yellow pages. So for sure. And I was telling recently, 12-year-old girls, they used to give you these books that had everyone's name and number in it. And it actually, you know what, when you think about it, in some ways kind of helpful, because now you can't really find that. Can you? Can you find out someone's? No.
Well, yeah, you can. Internet searches aren't that difficult, but everyone's got cell phones. So if someone happens to have a landline, you might find them. But this is from my old reporter days. But it's very difficult, unless you're sending spam text messages to get me to give $5 to the damn DNC. They get plenty of that. So Jimmy goes to the cannery to try and recover his family. Now that he knows where it is, he tricks Sal, the dumb goon. He gets the drop on Sal, the dumb goon, and has Sal call for Ralph to come out. And of course, Ralph, being the not dumb goon, realizes immediately what's going on and comes out and confronts Jimmy with the daughter and the grandson. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of talking back and forth, like an extensive amount of talking and banter between Jimmy and Ralph. And the reason for that is Mac is climbing the roof and he's wiggling overhead on a wire. He's scooching on this wire. Jimmy and Ralph are talking trash to each other for no reason at all. Jimmy gets a great dig in on Ralph, or Ralph gets a great dig in on Jimmy. Go ahead.
Let me just give some credit to Richard Dean Anderson. From behind, we see him scale the fence. Now, that's not a huge thing, but that fence is, it's not barbed, but it's got some spikes up there, right? He climbs a spiked fence, puts his hand delicately over the, the edge, and then hops up and climbs the roof. And that's all RDA.
Really?
So, I was watching. That's all him climbing that roof and climbing the fence with some spiky things.
And that was him riding a motorcycle in the last episode.
Some of it. Not all of it. Some of it.
Some of it. But he's upping his do my own stunts game.
A little bit, yeah.
Do you think this is where Tom Cruise got that idea from?
Yes, for sure.
So Ralph gets a real sick burn in on Jimmy too, because Jimmy's been lying to his daughter, and she's like, "You said you sold insurance," and Ralph's like, "Yeah, he sold life insurance, and he always collects." And I was like, "Oh my God, Ralph just got a drive-by on Jimmy." So The distraction proves enough that Mac is able to cut a rope with a net overhead, and one net drops on Sal, and then he slides down another rope and gets the drop on Ralph, and then Jimmy takes off while Ralph kicks Mac's ass, just beats the tar out of him, rolls him into the lake, and shoots him.
Yeah, Mac gets shot. For what, the second or third time? I'm not sure. It's at least the second time.
This is the first time he's wounded? Isn't there something
he got shot last year, or grazed. He got grazed in the head, and then had like amnesia.
Oh, we never agreed whether or not he was injured in the. I thought he was shot in the head. Everyone else said he was injured by a head fall.
And I feel like he was shot maybe in the arm or shoulder in season 1 or something. I feel like this might be the third time if you count that second time.
Very unusual though, and very dramatic because it is the end of Axminster 3. That's how.
And then you just see him like blub 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 go down, and I'm just trying to figure out what is that thought process. You get shot, you're going to pretend to die and slowly swim down.
So I do want to talk briefly about this rope because I spent a lot of time talking about abrasion resistance and about how great nylon ropes is and things like this are. And Swiss Army knives have this little tiny little blade on there. So it made me wonder, does this MacGyver?
Does it MacGyver?
So from the Swiss Army knife website, the precision-made Switzerland's best cutlery manufacturers are ideal for cutting nylon mountain climbing rope.
Nice.
So prove me wrong, right? Didn't have to do much search on that.
And since we always, maybe they could be a sponsor. By the way, we're still looking for our first ever sponsor. But do you want to say the Swiss Army knife website? What is it? Is there an official site?
It's like, I can't even read it. It's too small. But they're advertising.
Do they use some special font on their URL?
The Victorinox. Well, I take like screenshots and
Victorinox
15 function 3.5-inch red Swiss Army knife, specifically the saw part of it. But I'm going to say Mac's smart enough to know which blade on his knife to use. Ready for Axminster 4?
Yeah, this has got me by the cojones.
Things are real tough now. This is really exciting stuff. So Jimmy runs away with his family to try and get them to safety. And while he's there, he's trying to apologize. He's saying, I'm so sorry. I was a hitman. I didn't want you to get brought into this. His daughter calls him dad. And he cries. He's like, I just wanted you to call me dad. And he thinks they're hiding, but Ralph knocks over something as they're walking into the cannery, and that alerts Jimmy to the fact that they're still being pursued. So he goes and gives a goodbye speech, tells his family again, I'm leaving for good this time, and he's pretty certain he's going to his death, while Mac is rolling out of the water. And I thought for sure something was like Mac going to pull like a Bible or something out and he'd be safe, but no. Mac is injured.
Right. I thought he was going to have a vest or some kind of protective gear to show how he survived, but why did Mac survive a gunshot to the waist? I don't know.
I guess is there organs there? Beats me.
You've had some work done in that vicinity. You should know.
Believe it or not, your kidneys are up by your ribs. They're like almost up to your chest. Okay. But he's legit injured. They show blood dripping off of him. He's trailing blood. He's limping. He's very, very weak. He's almost immobile. But he is still fighting because he's Mac, and he's got to save Jimmy's life. So Jimmy goes to confront Ralph, and of course he's talking trash the entire time, all the way up until Ralph finally has enough and shoots Jimmy in the shoulder.
In the shoulder. I was a little surprised by that.
Because it's the 80s.
Right. Yeah, this is one of the bloodier episodes of MacGyver.
So Ralph, or which one? Jimmy, now shot, is scooching away from Ralph, who's continuing to gloat in his victory. Overhead, an injured Mac has found harpoon spears sitting around. Jimmy looks up at the last second, sees Mac overhead. Mac chucks a spear. It slams into what turns out to be a regulator on a boiler, which blows the regulator, and it shoots steam fully in to Ralph and Sal's faces.
Good thinking, Mac. Way to spot that.
What the hell?
You know what would have been? Imagine this show of MacGyverisms that go wrong, and this one he just impales Jimmy with the spear. Jimmy doesn't think to move. He just gets the spear through his throat, and the kid watches it all.
You know what that is? If we had really good editing skills, that's an amazing promo video.
Oof. Yeah.
MacGyverism's gone wrong, and like hits him with the spear. This is not a Does It MacGyver, but let's talk about steam to the face for a minute.
Oh yes, please.
Steam is extremely dangerous. It is responsible for 35% of all burns treated by a burn unit. The reason for this is steam is made up of superheated water molecules, and when they contact body tissue, they scald almost immediately. This is because when it touches your skin, it turns back into a liquid, and that draws heat out of your hand, which contributes to how bad the burn is.
That's pretty cool technology there. I mean, science, not technology.
Yes, most steam burns are very mild because the steam just comes and goes very quickly, but it's especially bad in the face and eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and just declare that Mac burned their eyes out is what happened. You remember the scene from Raiders?
Yeah.
It was like that.
I mean, just think of all the hot pockets that we've been burned by coming out of the microwave, right? It's the same physics going on here with MacGyver. MacGyver probably had a hot pocket.
Daily occurrence. And I'm stealing a joke here, but the joke from a comedian, that hot pockets have two temperatures, frozen and lava hot.
Yeah, true.
And that is the end of Axminster 4. Jimmy and Mac exchange some words. Jimmy says, "You're a complete lunatic," and Mac's kind of like, yeah. Yeah.
They make a pretty good pair, I gotta say, you know?
You were mentioning it earlier, and I was thinking if it weren't for Jack Dalton already being in the show, and this partnership doesn't quite work because Jack's also a trickster, but like there's kind of you could see an alternative universe where these two are, where like Jimmy's constantly getting into trouble and Mac's having to bail him out.
Right. This will be his last episode, though. This will be the last time we see Jimmy the Eraser Kendall. Does not come back, but I would have been fine if he came back from the dead yet another time. But good. Yeah.
Another interesting fact about Ralph and Sal, they were originally going to be played by Stubbins and Marlowe.
Now I wonder, did we miss last episode?
I definitely got it. Yeah,
okay.
I definitely got it. Believe me, I got notes.
Okay.
So we resume with a very brief Axminster 5, which we're all going to play in a cut.
Come on, Grandpa. I'm never going to make it to the major leagues.
Are you kidding? You got baseballs growing out of your family tree.
Tell that to the coach.
Well, you're just going to have to show it. You stand up to the plate, you plow the ball into orbit. It all starts right here. And you got to know that you can do it. We'll work on it together.
Really?
Yeah. Now, why don't you run upstairs, grab my coat, otherwise we're going to be late for the game.
Okay, Grandpa.
Whoa.
Brian!
It's all right. No problem.
Doctor said he didn't need those ribs anyway.
Not many guys would take a bullet for a friend.
What do you say we don't make a habit of that, friend?
And that's the end of the episode.
It was a good one. All right, so we've recapped.
Hold up.
Yep.
I do want to talk a couple things about Axminster 5.
Okay.
Mac lost a rib. You hear that? Pete says you didn't need that rib anyway.
Yeah.
Can Mac now suck his own dick?
Does it MacGyver?
Wow. We were sailing along with a G or PG rating for this episode. I'm still not going to put the explicit tag on this one. we need the support.
Can Mac upgrade from hand to gland combat?
You're asking a question that only you can answer, not because of your anatomy, but because you're the scientist on the show.
Yeah. I'm going to go with if he keeps up his yoga routine, the missing rib is going to help.
He's got this beautiful girl 30 yards away on a boat. Like, I don't think he should be resorting to that. But
now you know why he was late for dinner.
Yeah. Anything else on Axminster 5?
Getting better at baseball. So I played baseball like little boy here all the way up until the time I stopped getting required innings. And you get enough games where you're not getting in because you're not required to be put in anymore. That's a clear enough sign. So this past weekend with my in-laws in town, we went to Fresno's finest amusement park. And I mean that as sarcastically as you're thinking I mean it. And while there was a batting cage. And of course I cannot resist. My dad was always great at softball. When I watched him growing up, I was always terrible. So I step in there, I made contact with maybe one of them and hurt myself. My 76-year-old dad, who's got 2 different knees and my kidney in him, made solid contact with 9 out of 10 of those softballs. Wow. And it's just humiliating to watch this old man.
What speed was it coming in at?
Oh, slow pitch lob. I wouldn't even get close to hitting fast pitch. But my wife got a picture of my little boy standing behind Granddad, looking at him through the cage, doing a little bat motion.
Very
so
cool.
There's another. It's very cool. I'm not a
Very
baseball
cool,
guy,
yeah.
but that kind of stuff is hard to not feel good about.
And I love the synchronicity here with the Hank Aaron episode, right? Him stepping in at 53, your dad 76 or whatever, and like, yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
Anything else for Axminster Pie?
Nope. Is
that it?
Did you play?
Play what?
Oh, I know we played softball together, but did you ever play like high school or little league?
Yeah, played a lot. Played a lot.
Were you any good?
Yeah, pretty good.
You're
Not
kinda
not
tall.
college, but pretty good. Like, yeah.
You're kind of tall. Pitcher?
No, outfielder mainly. Like speedy and really good at tracking balls down in the outfield. But in Little League, played all positions, pitched, shortstop. Like I was an all-star player in Little League and a little bit of an all-star player in Babe Ruth, the next level up. But,
So like an Ichiro type.
I might be going too far. But
Who's a classic center fielder? Torrey Hunter?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I love Ichiro though, but I'm definitely cutting all this out. But
who would you compare your Little League career to?
Oh gosh, I don't know, but like one of my all-time greatest memories, core memories or not, top 3 greatest memories is my opening day Little League. I moved from the Bronx to upstate New York, fish out of water, not used to the area, just barely making friends. Opening day of Little League. I'm 10 years old. Third at bat, opening day, I hit a home run over the fence in right field, opposite field. And I was running so hard to second base, and I almost stumbled on second base because I didn't look to see if that it went over the fence. And people were like, yeah, it's a home run. I was like, oh, my God. And that was pretty rare for a 10-year-old player. You had 10, 11s, and 12-year-olds in Little League. Pretty rare for 10-year-olds to hit home runs. Like if you hit 1 or 2, that was a lot for a season. Opening day, new community. So that's like, oh, what a memory for me. My dad was watching too.
Instant. Oh, wow. With the dad watching everything? Oh, man, that is a core memory.
Yeah.
The highlight of my baseball career actually came when we were playing softball together. Here's how bad my baseball career was. We were playing softball together, and it was late in the game, and we were like either tied or behind. And I actually made contact with the ball, solid contact. And I'm watching them. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to get an RBI, and we're probably going to win this thing. And that stupid ball went out of bounds. Oh. It went foul.
He calls it out of bounds, showing your baseball knowledge there.
The pinnacle of my baseball career is a play that didn't even stay.
I don't remember that, but I don't remember you like being as bad as you're making it sound. I definitely remember, we had you towards the bottom of the order. Me, you, and Mike were on the same team. But you got some definite innings there at second base. That was always your position.
Yep, that would always be big Aaron Boone fan growing up. Big Barry Larkin played shortstop, but huge Barry Larkin fan because I was a huge Reds fan growing up. But I already talked about how the magic kind of got stolen from me with that. So that is the end of the episode. Thank you for coming along the ride.
All right, so we've recapped, we've ridiculed, and now on a 0 to 10 mullet scale, let's put a review number to Back from the Dead.
Name's MacGyver.
And as I have not really hit it throughout this episode, I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. It's not going to touch last episode's 8 because, I'm stingy. I am the skeptic of the show, so I'm stingy with my numbers. I'm not going to give it an 8 like Lost Love Part 2, but because it instantly starts with lore building. You've got a character from a previous episode, a good character, Jimmy the Eraser Kendall. You've got... what else do you got? But it's just good. You've got the mafia, hidden, trying to hide someone on the run. That's got built-in suspense. It's fun. You've got the cool MacGyver, Luke and Leia swinging down the thing at the stadium. Lots of fun things here. I like this one a good deal. So 0 to 10 mullets. I've got a 7 mullets for Back from the Dead.
That's a big number. That's a big number right there. I like the momentum of the episode. I like the fact that the plots are really encapsulated. Sometimes they can get a little turned around and on top of themselves. So I think it really benefits by being straightforward. Jimmy's on the run, all this kind of stuff. The baseball setting's nice. Hank Aaron appearance is pretty cool. But I'll be honest, I'm over Jimmy the Eraser. I got real tired of his routine. Especially like the tearful making up to his family. The dude is supposed to be a cold-hearted assassin. And just like his accent and his demeanor, all this kind of stuff I just find very exhausting.
Okay.
So I think he actually, for me, brings it down an episode, a notch or two, because I just didn't care very much for what happened to him. And he gets Mac in such danger, and he doesn't really deserve this kind of treatment from Mac, and Mac gets shot over it. There's all sorts of crap going on. So I think it's a 5-mullet affair. I think it's good. The Hank Aaron appearance is very cool. A lot of nice scenes. Great stunt work with the sliding down the thing. You know, all the performers are very solid. But I just don't like Jimmy. I don't like Jimmy the Eraser.
All right, man stands by his convictions. All right, so you've got a 5. I've got a 7. Add it up, divide it by 2, and that gives us 6.
This one's rated 6 out of 10 mullets.
This time you're going to say it. Is
that right?
It is a 6. A 6. But either way, it can't dull. So we've got a 6, an 8, and a 6 for the first 3 episodes of season 3. I thought you were going to join me here.
Start.
Yeah, I thought you were going to join me, so we'd wind up at a 7. So I thought, wow, we got a 6, an 8, and a 7. But so be it. That's fine. All right, let's crunch the numbers now. This is where we count up all the MacGyverisms from this episode, see how many were successful, and then we'll count up all the times someone said MacGyver, because it's usually a lot. And all right, so MacGyverisms. Jeff, it sounded like Mac did pretty well.
Yeah, he's 3 for 3. I'm counting the 3 are riding down the wire on the hose, doing the reverse number search, and then cutting a similar type of hose sort of thing. There's a 4th one that's more like a Mac fact about steam to the face. I'm not counting that one. I just like sometimes, if they're very thin on MacGyverisms, I throw in some other fun stuff. But for those 3, Mac steps to the plate, and in Hank Aaron-like fashion, goes 3 for 3 with 3 home runs on the night. Mac is perfect.
Yeah, there you go, Mac. And he was 3 for 3 last episode, so that's 6 for his last 6. That's pretty good. All right, now, how many times was MacGyver said here? It should be noted that in the first episode of the season, 21 times. Last episode came in at the 3rd most ever, 33 times. And you were right, I misspoke there, but it did challenge Deathlock, because Deathlock had 36. But it was 33 last time, so how many this time?
Decided step down because Jimmy and Mac know each other, so there's a little limit on the Macs. I'm going to go with 18.
Well, the reputation precedes a little bit here. I think but gosh, just 6 times.
What?
MacGyver was only said 6 times.
How did I get it that wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And I thought I would get closer watching it twice.
It was hardly ever said. I mean, I'm sitting there keeping score, so I'm a little bummed by that.
I spent the second walkthrough getting more and more annoyed at Jimmy, so that might have had something to do with it.
Okay.
I kind of just wanted Ralph to shoot him.
All right, how about the most make funable moment? There's not a lot to make fun of here. Not like, cheesiness, but what I'll say, and I don't think it'll be yours, because this is a nitpicky thing, but I'll say it's MacGyver's 2-minute shower and dress and back down the steps. But what do you think was the most make funable?
The loser kid.
The grandson?
Yes. The loser kid who can't play baseball.
Wait.
He's sliding into second base all by himself afterwards. His mom didn't have to see his uniforms clean.
But you said you identified with that. I think I even had some moments like that, too.
Oh, yeah.
You want to come back dirty.
Terrible athlete. I was a terrible athlete. Yeah. So I can, as from one loser kid to another loser kid, that's the funniest moment.
All right.
Or it's Sal generally.
Oh, also, MacGyver sliding down on that crane rope thing. Like, if you would have saw that coming, you would have just shot him. And he would not have had time to land on you and take you out with nets and all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I mean kind of Sal generally. He's sort of the prototypical bumbling fool. Like, who gets taken out by a net?
But then he's a pretty good pugilist there when it comes to the putting up the dukes.
That's Ralph.
Yeah, that's Ralph. That's right, Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph delivers the beatdown.
Yeah. All right, well, that's a good episode, and I think we'll just call it quits here. And got a phone call. Oh, but you know what? I bet you I know who this is. Hello?
Hey, guys, how's it going? It's Jimmy Kendall.
Oh, hey, Jimmy.
Hey.
Jimmy, what's going on?
Oh, it's you.
I'm calling you live from lovely Montana. Yeah, home of the world's most secretive Little League coach.
New wife.
Oh,
right?
Wow, that's cool. A job is a job, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, whatever. Hey, how my favorite AAA podcast is doing?
Is AAA good? There's 3 A's, right? That's the best one.
You know, if I was there right now, I'd slap both of you in the face twice in a way that is both demeaning and endearing.
Would prefer that you didn't.
Jeff doesn't like that. He just mentioned this episode.
Hey, anyways, I heard you was reviewing my episode, and I figured I'd give you a call with a review of your little dog and pony show there.
Okay, you got some feedback?
Do you have
Great.
the necessary background for this criticism?
You watch your mouth there, tough guy. Now, since you had Mike taken care of, I understand you're looking for a third co-host?
Does he... Does he think we killed Mike?
Listen, and I got the perfect solution.
Oh.
You're talking to him.
No, Jimmy, we didn't kill Mike.
Well, you should have. I got the perfect solution. Me. I've got a lot of connections. If you know what I mean.
Okay.
And I can help us get a ton of killer guests.
Uh-huh.
I love taking jabs at MacGyver, like you guys do.
Uh-huh.
And between, who is it? You got your Stan Yorvan and your Jeremy Happ, and me, Jimmy the Eraser Kendall. It'd be a real murderer's row of talent.
That's Sam Jordan, and Jeffrey Hess.
I mean, we'd really slaughter the competition, guys.
Okay, I'm definitely sure he thinks we killed Mike.
Jimmy, that's we really appreciate the offer, but I don't know. The search is going to continue, and you've got the whole witness protection thing going on, so I'm not sure you're a great fit, but...
Hey, guys, it's a really good podcast you got there, and I would hate to see anything happen to it.
Okay, now hold on a minute. Is that a threat?
No, Jeremy, that's not a threat.
Oh, it's Jeffrey, but okay.
Jimmy the Eraser doesn't make any threats. He only makes promises. And sure, he keeps track of batting gloves and jock straps for minor league infielders, but for the most part, he only makes promises. And I promise you, I would make a very good third host of the show.
We'll think about it.
Maybe, Jimmy. Can we get back to you on that?
Yeah. I'm sure you will. Okay, hey, I gotta get back to the ranch here. My grandson needs help finding a pentagon-shaped cow chip to use as home plate. But hey, keep making fun of MacGyver and keep my picture out of the paper.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, we'll do.
Home plate is a pentagon. I had never thought of that.
I had to look it up.
5 points. Usually people see them like equal.
Well, that concludes this one. Another good one. Any final thoughts here, Jeff?
Loved it. Another great episode. I'm really excited for this season because the stride is great. Like now it's MacGyver.
I am really liking these first 3 episodes so far.
Definitely.
So thank you for your fine effort today, and thank you out there for listening, and we hope we've entertained you a little bit as we've entertained ourselves once again. Without our Patreon patrons, we'd be nothing, so let's thank them right now. We got to thank Mia in Canberra, Australia, our first ever patron. We haven't talked to her in a while, but she's got another episode coming up, and we love our favorite lady down under.
We have Bo in Fort Myers, Florida, who's a trained CNC machinist and wants to remind you that it does Bo Rigby.
Claire in New Jersey, our favorite feminist, just a great fan, and we thank her for her viewer mail call here today and informing us about magic penis syndrome.
We have Caesar from parts unknown, but ay Dios mío, he used to watch in Espanol with his tia.
Christian in Norway, one of our favorite patrons and one of our favorite fans out there. He joined us on the Hangout last month, and hopefully we'll see him soon.
Matt Mooney, McCarthy, McNeely, I can never remember. He's in Minneapolis and he runs a theater.
Vivian in Taiwan. Vivian, you're one of our favorite fans. We love the fact that you're halfway around the world and you have that passion for Mac. So we hope we've entertained you once again here tonight.
And Gary in Kelowna, British Columbia, who stars in a band and is #1 MFMOM Listener Hall of Fame. MFOM Listener Hall of Fame.
And he probably knows these filming locations. He probably knows where that houseboat is located. We got to go visit Gary and these filming locations.
Yeah.
So, guys, we always are looking for new friends. Please reach out to us on social media if you want to throw something in the tip jar. Well, on patreon.com/making fun of MacGyver. But above all else, keep coming back because we're going to keep making fun of MacGyver. So for Jeff, I'm Sam. And thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Father Kowalski, Jimmy Kendall, remember me? It's a trying time for me, Father. I kind of like to see you, talk to you about it. Maybe you could give me a little peace. That's real nice of you, Father. Thanks a lot. Let's go to church.
Take me to church, I worship like a dog at the shrine of your life. I'll tell you my sins and you can sharpen your knife. Offer me that deathless death, the good God, let me give you my life. Take me to church, I worship like a dog
Still on for dinner tonight?
I'll be there.
That's what you said last time.